The day of my mother's funeral was supposed to be about saying goodbye, about honoring her life, her love, and everything she stood for. But instead, it became the day my siblings publicly tore me apart. The church was filled with people dressed in black, their faces heavy with grief, yet all I could feel was the weight of their eyes when my brother, Marcus, stood up during the reception and called me the disappointment of the family. His words sliced through the silence sharper than any knife. My sisters, Tasha and Renee, didn't even try to stop him. They nodded along, whispering to the guests, shaking their heads like I was some shameful mistake that had ruined everything. I stood there frozen beside Mom's framed photo, the smell of lilies filling the air, trying to keep my tears from falling. Every memory of her played in my mind, how she used to tell me, "Don't let anyone make you feel small, baby." Yet there I was, being humiliated in front of everyone who ever knew our family. The whispers started spreading fast, people turning their heads toward me, pity in their eyes. I wanted to scream, to tell them everything they didn't know. But I stayed quiet because I'd learned the hard way. Defending yourself only makes you look guiltier when people have already decided who you are. Marcus's voice got louder as he went on, talking about how I had abandoned the family, how I never did enough for Mom, and how I showed up only for the will. My stomach turned hearing that. They made me sound heartless, but none of them knew what I had sacrificed for years, what I had given up to take care of Mom when she was sick, even when they were too busy living their own lives. I had no fancy job, no big house, no social circle. Just long nights in the hospital, cooking her meals, managing her medications, and praying for her to get better. And when she finally passed, I thought maybe, just maybe, my siblings and I would find peace together. But instead all I found was anger. When the service ended, people came up to offer condolences, but my siblings' words had already poisoned the air. Tasha brushed past me like I was invisible. Renee gave me that same look she always did, the one that said you'll never be good enough. I helped the funeral director carry the last of the flowers to the car while they huddled in a corner, whispering. I could only imagine what they were plotting next. My heart hurt not just from losing Mom, but from realizing that my family was gone too. Maybe they had been gone long before this day. By the time we arrived at Mom's old house for the reading of her will, I was emotionally drained. The house smelled like her perfume, and for a moment I almost forgot all the pain. Her favorite gospel record was still on the shelf, her teacup still resting on the table like she just stepped out for a minute. But the peace didn't last long. The tension between us siblings was thick enough to choke on. Marcus was pacing the room, Tasha sat with her arms crossed, and Renee scrolled on her phone pretending not to care. I sat near the window, staring at the garden Mom loved so much, wondering what she would think if she saw how divided we'd become. The lawyer, Mr. Thompson, an old family friend, arrived shortly after. He was a kind black man in his late 60s with a gentle voice and eyes that had seen too much. "I know this is a hard day for everyone," he began softly, opening his briefcase. "Your mother wanted me to be here personally to read her final wishes." The room went quiet except for the creak of the floor and the ticking of the wall clock. My heart started pounding again. I didn't expect much, maybe a few sentimental things, maybe something small she had saved for me, but the look on Mr. Thompson's face told me there was more. Before he could start reading, Marcus interrupted. "Let's just get this over with," he said, his tone sharp. "We already know who deserves what." He smirked at me like he was certain Mom hadn't left me a thing. Tasha and Renee nodded, almost smug. I looked down at my hands, biting my lip to keep from crying. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable with their behavior. "Your mother was a remarkable woman," he said. "And she was very intentional with her words and her decisions." Then he began to read. "To my children, Marcus, Tasha, Renee, and my youngest, Naomi," the sound of my name made me sit up a little straighter. "I have left each of you something that reflects not only what you have given me in life, but what I hope you will find after I am gone." Marcus leaned back, crossing his arms, clearly expecting something big. Tasha's eyes were already gleaming with greed. "Me? I just wanted peace." But as the lawyer continued, their smugness started to fade. When he read what Mom had left for Marcus, it was a family heirloom, valuable but not what he expected. Tasha got something similar. Renee's turn came, and her face fell when she realized Mom's letter to her was more about reflection than inheritance. Then came my name again. Mr. Thompson paused, almost as if he was making sure he read it right. "To Naomi, my youngest child," he read slowly, "the one my siblings have called the disappointment, I leave not only my gratitude for her love and patience but also something I trust will reveal the truth about what really mattered in this family." The room went silent. Marcus's smirk disappeared, replaced by confusion. "What does that even mean?" he demanded. Tasha frowned and Renee finally looked up from her phone. Mr. Thompson didn't answer. He simply reached into his briefcase and pulled out a sealed envelope with my name written on it in Mom's handwriting. My hands trembled as he handed it to me. The paper felt warm as if her love still lingered through it. I didn't know whether to cry or to run. Whatever was in that envelope, I knew it was going to change everything. Mom asked that you open this after I finish reading her will, Mr. Thompson said gently. There's also a second document she wanted read aloud after Naomi opens her envelope. Marcus immediately protested, "That's ridiculous. Why does she get some secret message?" But the lawyer just looked at him calmly. Because those were her instructions. The tension in the room was unbearable. My siblings glared at me like I had stolen something precious before even knowing what it was. I wanted to say something, to remind them that I didn't ask for this, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I just sat there holding the envelope, feeling Mom's spirit around me. Her voice echoed in my mind the way she used to say, "Naomi, the truth always comes out, baby. Always." As the lawyer closed the folder and took a slow breath, I could sense that whatever came next wasn't just about inheritance. It was about everything that had been hidden, every lie, every wound buried under years of silence. My siblings had spent years making me feel like the outsider, the failure, the disappointment. But something in Mom's tone, even through her written words, told me this moment wasn't about shame, it was about revelation. Mr. Thompson leaned forward, folding his hands. "Naomi," he said softly, "whenever you're ready you may open the envelope." I stared at it, my heart pounding, my siblings' eyes burning into me. 1,000 thoughts ran through my mind. Was it a letter? A confession? Something that would finally show them who Mom really believed in? My fingers brushed over the seal, trembling. I looked around the room one last time, Marcus glaring, Tasha fidgeting, Renee pretending not to care. And then I took a deep breath. That's when I heard it, a faint gasp from Mr. Thompson as he glanced at the second paper still inside his folder. Whatever it was, it made his expression change completely, his eyes wide, his face pale. He looked at me, then at my siblings and said quietly, "Your mother's final message will change everything you think you know." And right there, in that silent living room filled with years of resentment and grief, I realized that the real truth about our family was just about to begin. The silence that followed Mr. Thompson's words felt heavier than the grief that filled the room. The lawyer's eyes lingered on me for a moment before lowering to the folder in his hands, his fingers trembling slightly as if he was afraid of what came next. My siblings shifted in their seats, restless, impatient, and full of judgment. I could almost feel their resentment crawling across the air. Marcus leaned forward, his jaw tight. "What are you waiting for?" he snapped. "Open it already." I hesitated, my heart beating so fast it hurt. The envelope still felt warm in my hands as if my mother's spirit was right there beside me, urging me to take a breath. Her handwriting across the front, soft, looping, familiar, made my eyes sting. I had seen it 1,000 times on grocery lists, birthday cards, and sticky notes on the fridge reminding me to smile. But this time it felt final. I wanted to hold on to that moment just a little longer, to feel her presence before opening something that could change everything. When I finally broke the seal, the faint scent of lavender drifted out. Mom always loved lavender. It calmed her during her bad days. Inside was a handwritten letter, 2 pages long, folded carefully. My hands shook as I unfolded it. The room around me faded. It was just me and her words now. The first line made my breath catch. "My sweet Naomi, I know by the time you read this, you'll be surrounded by people who think they already know the truth. But life has a way of showing who was really there when it mattered." My chest tightened. She knew. She had seen everything I tried to hide, the long nights at the hospital, the bills I paid quietly, the way I stayed strong when she couldn't. She went on to talk about the times I took care of her when no one else came around, how she wished she had said thank you more often. Tears rolled down my cheeks before I even realized it. But then her tone shifted. "There's something I need you to know and something they need to hear. I kept certain things quiet for too long, hoping the family would heal on its own. But silence can protect lies just as easily as it can protect peace." My hands froze halfway through the page. I looked up, feeling everyone's eyes on me. Marcus was glaring, Tasha's expression had softened slightly, like she was curious. But Renee just looked bored, though I could see her tapping her foot anxiously. I wasn't ready to read the rest out loud, not yet. Something told me these words weren't meant to be rushed. The room stayed quiet for a long time after the lawyer finished speaking. The tension was so heavy it felt like the walls themselves were holding their breath. No one knew what to say. My siblings were staring at me as if I'd just stolen something right out of their hands. Marcus looked furious, his jaw clenched tight enough to crack a tooth. Tasha's face shifted between disbelief and guilt, and Renee just sat back in her chair, arms folded, her expression unreadable. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. Mom's voice still echoed in my mind, her words about truth, about how silence had protected lies. My whole life I had been painted as the family disappointment, the one who never achieved much, the one they all pitied. And yet, behind that label, I had quietly carried more than they ever knew. Now that the truth was out, part of me wanted to feel vindicated, but instead I just felt tired. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat softly, breaking the silence. Your mother wanted the safety deposit box opened within a week, he said. She said that what's inside will explain everything else. Marcus turned sharply toward him. And what if we don't agree to that? The lawyer didn't even flinch. Then you'll never know what she wanted you to understand, he replied calmly. But I'll tell you this, your mother was a woman of intention. If she left something behind, it's because she wanted peace for this family. Marcus scoffed, shaking his head. Peace? By giving everything to her? He gestured toward me. You call that peace? Marcus, Tasha said softly, but he ignored her. He turned back to me, his eyes burning with resentment. You think you deserve all this? You really think you're some kind of hero now? I took a shaky breath. I never asked for any of this, Marcus. You just what? He interrupted, his voice sharp. You just showed up when there was something to gain? I looked down at my hands, trying not to let the tears fall again. I showed up when Mom needed me, I said quietly. That shut him up for a moment. But his silence was filled with anger. Mr. Thompson started gathering his papers, sensing that things were about to get worse. I'll contact you all about the date for the deposit box, he said. Until then, I suggest you take some time to reflect. Your mother loved you all. That's what matters. He stood, gave me a gentle nod, and left the house. The sound of the door closing echoed through the quiet living room. Then it was just the four of us, and all the tension Mom's words had left behind. Tasha was the first to speak. Marcus, stop, she said, her voice trembling slightly. You heard what Mr. Thompson said. Mom made her choices. Marcus turned on her. You're really okay with this? She gets the house, she gets the truth, she gets everything, and we just sit here pretending it's fair. Renee finally spoke, her voice calm but cold. Maybe Mom had her reasons. Marcus glared at her. Oh, now you're defending her too? Renee shrugged. I'm just saying maybe we should wait before jumping to conclusions. That surprised me. Renee was usually the least emotional of us all. She had always kept her distance, never getting too involved in family issues. For her to take my side even slightly made Marcus even angrier. This is ridiculous, he muttered, storming toward the hallway. I'm not wasting another minute here. Tasha followed him halfway, calling after him, but he was already gone, slamming the door behind him so hard that the photo frames on the wall rattled. The silence that followed was uncomfortable. I could hear the faint ticking of the clock and the sound of my own heartbeat. Tasha sighed, rubbing her temples. He's just upset, she said softly. He'll cool down. I nodded, though I wasn't sure she believed it herself. Renee stood up, looking around the room. You should stay here tonight, she said suddenly. The house is yours now anyway. We can deal with all this later. Her tone wasn't warm, but it wasn't cruel either. It almost sounded cautious. Thanks, I said, unsure what else to say. After they left, I sat alone in the dim living room, surrounded by memories. Mom's favorite blanket was still draped over the couch. Her old record player sat by the shelf, untouched since the day she got sick. I ran my fingers over the wooden coffee table, remembering how she'd scold me for putting my feet on it when I was younger. The house still smelled faintly like her, vanilla and lavender, soft and familiar. For a moment, the anger and confusion faded, replaced by sadness. I missed her voice. I missed her laughter. I missed the way she could make everything feel okay even when it wasn't. But underneath the grief, a new feeling was growing, unease. What exactly was in that safety deposit box? Why did Mom sound so serious about it in her letter? The words, "The truth will explain everything they don't understand yet," kept circling in my mind. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept replaying the moment Mr. Thompson said, "Your mother's final message will change everything you think you know." The next few days were tense. Marcus ignored all of my calls. Tasha texted me once saying she was worried about him, and Renee, well, she was harder to read. She sent me a short message, "Let me know when the lawyer calls." That was it. When the day finally came, Mr. Thompson called early in the morning. His voice was calm as always. "Naomi, the bank confirmed everything. Can you and your siblings meet me tomorrow at noon?" I agreed, though part of me wanted to tell him I wasn't ready. That night, I went through Mom's old photo albums. Each picture told a story: birthday parties, holidays, family dinners. In most of them, Mom was smiling wide, holding one of us close. But as I flipped through the later pages, I noticed something strange. In the photos taken during her final year, Marcus and Tasha were rarely there. It was mostly me and her. In one picture, she was sitting on the porch holding my hand. On the back, she had written in her neat handwriting, "Naomi, thank you for never leaving." Tears filled my eyes again. I'd never seen that photo before. The next day, we all met at the bank. The tension was thick from the moment we arrived. Marcus refused to look at me. Tasha was trying to stay calm, and Renee just seemed guarded. Mr. Thompson greeted us and led us into a small, private room. He placed a small, worn-out metal box on the table. It was old, scratched, but locked tight. My heart thudded as he turned the key. When the lid opened, everyone leaned forward. Inside was a brown envelope, a small black notebook, and a set of old photographs tied with a ribbon. Mr. Thompson handed me the envelope first. "Your mother instructed that you open this one aloud," he said. My hands trembled again as I tore the seal. The letter inside was shorter than before, but written in the same familiar script. "If you are reading this, Naomi, it means my truth is finally free. What's inside this box isn't just for you, it's for all of you. It's about our family's past and the choices that shaped everything. There were sacrifices made that none of you ever understood, and it's time you did." Marcus frowned. "What choices? What's she talking about?" I didn't answer. I reached for the notebook, flipping it open carefully. Inside were pages filled with Mom's handwriting, diary entries, dates, notes about hospital bills, names I didn't recognize. Tasha leaned closer. "What is this?" I scanned one page and froze. Mom had written about a man, someone named Daniel. The entry said, "I never told the children about Daniel. He helped me when things got bad. Without him, we would have lost everything." "Who's Daniel?" Renee asked, her voice low. I don't know," I said softly, my mind racing. There were more notes, about financial help, about keeping a promise, about protecting someone. The deeper I read, the more questions filled my head. Mr. Thompson watched quietly. "Your mother wanted you to see this together," he said. "But she also mentioned that some truths might hurt before they heal." Marcus leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Are you saying Mom had secrets from us?" The lawyer hesitated. "It seems she did." My heart pounded. Secrets? What? Hidden sacrifices. Suddenly, the picture Mom had painted in her letter began to blur. What if everything we thought we knew about her, and about us, wasn't the full story? As I turned to the next page, my eyes caught another line that made my stomach twist. "If something happens to me before I can tell them, Naomi will know what to do." My siblings stared at me in confusion, waiting for an explanation I didn't have. I could feel their suspicion building again, their anger simmering just beneath the surface. And though I didn't know what the truth was yet, I could sense it. Whatever Mom had kept hidden was going to tear open every old wound this family had buried. The answers were somewhere in that little black notebook. But the more I read, the more I feared that the truth my mother wanted to reveal might not bring peace at all. It might just destroy everything left of us. The room felt smaller with every page I turned, as if the air itself was tightening around us. The soft hum of the ceiling vent was the only sound filling the silence between each shaky breath. My hands were sweating as I flipped through Mom's old notebook, trying to make sense of her looping handwriting. Each entry seemed to pull another thread loose from the life we thought we knew. My siblings leaned closer now, suspicion, fear, and curiosity mixing in their eyes. The name Daniel kept appearing again and again, underlined in some places, circled in others. Mom had written about late-night phone calls, meetings she never told us about, and how he helped her save what was left of the family. There were also references to something she called the agreement. My pulse quickened as I read those words. Tasha's voice broke through the tension. "What agreement?" she whispered. I didn't answer right away. My eyes were scanning the next few lines. "Daniel said it's better if the kids never know. But I can't carry this secret forever." Marcus slammed his hand on the table, making me flinch. "Enough of this," he snapped. "Who is this man? What was Mom hiding?" Mr. Thompson's face remained calm, but his voice was measured. Marcus let her finish reading. "Your mother left this for a reason." But Marcus wasn't listening. He stood up, pacing the small room like a caged animal. "This doesn't make sense. Mom wasn't the type to hide things. She wouldn't. He stopped, his voice cracking slightly. She wouldn't keep something from us. I wanted to believe that too. But the more I read, the more I realized that maybe Mom had lived a life we barely understood. I turned another page and found an envelope taped inside. On the front, in her careful handwriting, it said, "To be opened only if they doubt me." My fingers trembled as I peeled it open. Inside was a folded document, an old bank statement, a letter, and a photograph. The photo made me stop breathing for a moment. It was Mom standing beside a man I didn't recognize, tall, dark-skinned, with kind eyes and a smile that looked almost familiar. They were standing outside what looked like a hospital. Renee leaned forward. "Who is that?" I shook my head. "I don't know." Marcus grabbed the photo from my hand, his eyes narrowing. "This guy, he looks familiar." Tasha frowned. "He kind of does. Wait." Her voice trailed off as she reached for the document still in my hand. It was a letter dated years ago before Mom got sick. I unfolded it slowly. "Angela, I've sent the funds as promised. I don't want the kids to know yet, it would only confuse them. You've done the right thing keeping quiet. We'll handle the rest when the time comes." It was signed simply Daniel R. The air seemed to vanish from the room. Renee stared at me. "Funds? What funds? Was he paying Mom for something?" Marcus threw the photo on the table. "Are you saying Mom took money from some random guy? For what?" My throat went dry. Maybe he was just helping her, maybe he was a friend. Marcus's laugh was bitter. "A friend? Come on, Naomi. You really think Mom would take money from a stranger and never tell us?" Renee rubbed her temples, whispering to herself, "Daniel R. Why does that sound familiar?" The tension kept climbing. Everyone was talking at once, voices overlapping, anger and confusion spilling out. Mr. Thompson finally raised his voice, firm but steady. "Enough. Your mother wouldn't have left this without a reason. We can't jump to conclusions." But I could see the doubt on his face too. He looked troubled, as though even he didn't understand what Mom had gotten herself into. I turned back to the notebook, hoping for more answers, but instead found something worse. On one of the final pages, Mom had written in bold letters, "If the truth ever comes out, it might divide them forever. But they deserve to know." A chill ran through me. Whatever this secret was, Mom knew it could break us apart. Marcus started pacing again, his anger boiling over. "You know what this looks like, right? It looks like she was hiding something big, something she didn't want us to find." Tasha shook her head. "Stop twisting it, Marcus. Mom wasn't like that." "Then explain it," he shouted, pointing at me. "She leaves everything to Naomi, hides some mystery man's name in her diary, and now we find out about secret money? Tell me that doesn't sound suspicious." "Marcus, calm down," Renee said, her voice low. "Don't tell me to calm down," he snapped. His face was red, his voice echoing off the walls. "You all think she's some saint, but maybe she wasn't who we thought she was." His words hit me like a slap. "Don't talk about her like that," I said quietly. He turned to me, his eyes cold. "You think you're so perfect, don't you? The good daughter. The one who stayed. Maybe you stayed because you knew what she was hiding." I stood up, my heart pounding. "That's not fair. I didn't know anything." "Didn't you?" he hissed. "You had all that time alone with her. Maybe she told you more than you're saying." "Marcus, stop," Tasha said, stepping between us. "You're out of line." He glared at her, then stormed toward the door again. "You all want to believe lies, go ahead. But I'm not done digging." When he left, the silence he left behind felt like an open wound. I sank back into my chair, trembling. Mr. Thompson rested a hand on my shoulder. "Naomi, your mother trusted you with this truth for a reason," he said gently. "Whatever comes next, you have to stay strong." I nodded, though my mind was spinning. I looked at the photo again, the man's face, that gentle smile. Something about him felt familiar. Like I had seen him somewhere before, maybe in an old newspaper or a community event Mom once mentioned. But I couldn't place it. Tasha sat down beside me, her eyes red. "Do you think he was the reason Mom could keep the house?" she asked quietly. "Maybe," I said. "But why didn't she just tell us?" "Maybe she thought we wouldn't understand," Renee said softly from across the table. "Or maybe she was protecting someone." Her words hung in the air like fog. Protecting someone. Mr. Thompson folded the notebook carefully. "We should take this to my office," he said. "I'll go through the documents properly. There might be records, maybe even letters that explain the connection." We agreed, though no one said much on the drive back. The tension between us was so thick that even the quiet felt loud. Marcus didn't show up that day, and honestly I was relieved. When we reached Mr. Thompson's office, he placed the notebook and the photo in a small file. "I'll contact you as soon as I find anything," he said. "But Naomi, one thing your mother mentioned in her will stands out to me. She said the truth would not only explain the past, it would change your future." I frowned. "What does that mean?" He hesitated. "I don't know yet. But if she meant it the way I think she did, there's something even bigger we haven't uncovered." That night, I sat in Mom's living room again, staring at her picture. My phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. It said, "You shouldn't have opened that box. Some things are better left buried." My stomach dropped. I read it twice, then 3 times, my hands shaking. Who would send something like that? I looked around the dark room, the creak of the old house making me shiver. The message came again, this time with a photo attachment. It was blurry, taken from outside the house, of me sitting by the window. I froze. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I didn't move. Someone was watching me. And in that moment, I realized, whatever secret Mom had kept hidden wasn't just about the past. It was still alive. Someone out there wanted it to stay buried, and they were willing to make sure it did. My fingers hovered over the phone, the glow of the screen casting shaky light across my face. I didn't know whether to call the police or pretend it was some twisted prank. The air in the house suddenly felt heavier, every sound sharper, the ticking clock, the rustle of curtains in the faint night breeze. Someone was out there watching me, and the thought alone sent a chill straight through my chest. I stood up slowly and peeked through the window, heart hammering so hard it almost drowned out everything else. The street outside looked empty, quiet and still, with only the dim streetlight flickering near the gate. But the photo had been taken from close by, maybe from the driveway. My breath caught. The last time I'd been outside, I thought I'd seen a car parked a few houses down, a black sedan with tinted windows. It was gone now. I locked all the doors and sat back down, trying to think. Maybe Marcus had something to do with it. He was furious after the lawyers' meeting and had stormed out before we could calm him down. But would he really go that far? Maybe he wanted to scare me, or maybe someone else knew about Mom's secret before we did. The phone buzzed again. This time a voice note. I hesitated, then pressed play. "Naomi," a distorted voice said, low and unrecognizable. "You're digging into something that doesn't belong to you. Stop before it's too late." I dropped the phone. My pulse was racing, my throat dry. I wanted to scream but couldn't. I picked it up again and listened one more time, hoping I'd misheard, but it said the same thing. Just then there was a soft knock at the door. I froze, staring at the wooden frame, my mind spinning. It came again, slow, deliberate, and unsettling. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. "It's me," a familiar voice said. It was Tasha. I rushed to open the door, relief flooding through me. She looked shaken, her eyes darting around the porch before she stepped inside. "I've been trying to call you," she said. "Marcus just called me, he's freaking out." "What happened?" I asked. She took a deep breath. "He said someone broke into Mom's old storage unit tonight. The lock was smashed. He got there just after the police were called." My stomach twisted. "What did they take?" "They don't know yet," she said, running a hand through her hair. "But Marcus swears he saw someone leaving in a black car." I felt my legs weaken. "A black car?" "Yeah," she said slowly. "Why?" I handed her my phone and showed her the messages. Her face went pale as she read. "Naomi, this isn't a coincidence. Whoever broke in is the same person who's been watching you." We sat in silence for a moment, the sound of the rain starting to tap against the window. The night outside seemed endless, like the darkness itself was hiding something. Then Tasha said, almost in a whisper, "Do you think Mom knew this would happen?" I looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" "She always kept things locked up, documents, boxes, letters. Maybe that storage unit wasn't just for old stuff. Maybe she hid something there she didn't want anyone to find." Her words settled heavily between us. I remembered how Mom used to say, "Not everything I'm leaving behind is meant to be found." At the time, I thought she was talking about memories. Now I wasn't so sure. The next morning, we met at Mr. Thompson's office again. Marcus was already there, pacing the floor. His eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep, and he looked both angry and scared. "They took something," he said the moment we walked in. "There was an old chest in the back of the unit. It's gone." "What was in it?" I asked. He looked at me like I should already know. "You tell me. You're the one who had all the time with her." Tasha jumped in. "Marcus, not now." But he wasn't backing down. "I'm serious." She trusted Naomi more than the rest of us. If anyone knew what was inside that box, it's her. I don't, I said firmly. I didn't even know there was one. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. Actually, he said quietly, your mother mentioned a chest in her last conversation with me. She called it her insurance. Renee frowned. Insurance for what? He hesitated. She said it contained documents she hoped none of you would ever need, unless something happened. The room went still. What kind of documents? Marcus demanded. Mr. Thompson hesitated again before answering. She didn't specify. But she warned that if the wrong person found them, it could destroy everything she built. I felt a cold wave rush over me. The wrong person. Whoever broke into the storage unit knew exactly what they were looking for. Just as we were processing it all, Mr. Thompson's secretary knocked on the door. Sir, there's a man here asking for you. He says he was a friend of Mrs. Harris. All of us looked up instantly. His name? Mr. Thompson asked. She glanced at the note in her hand. Daniel Ross. It felt like the air was sucked out of the room. We all froze, staring at each other. That name, Daniel R. was the same signature from the letters in Mom's notebook. Marcus's jaw tightened. Bring him in. The man who entered looked older than the photo I'd seen, but unmistakably the same person. His skin was deep brown, his hair graying at the edges, and his expression carried both calm and sorrow. He looked directly at me first, as if he already knew who I was. Naomi, he said softly. You look just like your mother. My voice barely came out. You knew her? He nodded. For a long time. I didn't want to show up like this, but after hearing what happened at the storage unit, I had no choice. Mr. Thompson motioned for him to sit. Mr. Ross, we found your name in some of Angela's old notes. Perhaps you can explain what connection you had with her. Daniel sighed. I was your mother's business partner, and her friend. Years ago, your family was in serious debt after your father left. Angela didn't want you children to suffer, so she came to me for help. I helped her save the house and set up a trust fund for all of you. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Then why didn't she tell us? Because there was more to it, Daniel said, his tone somber. We were being threatened by someone who wanted the property your mother owned. She made me promise not to tell you until she was gone. Tasha leaned forward. Threatened by who? Daniel hesitated. Her brother. The shock rippled through the room. Renee gasped. Uncle Peter? That can't be right. Daniel shook his head. I wish it weren't. But Peter forged documents, took money from her business, and when she confronted him, he swore she'd regret it. She hid the proof, those documents, in that chest. I felt dizzy. And now someone has it. He nodded gravely. Which means whoever broke in is either working for him, or is him. Went pale. What do you mean, burned? He whispered into the receiver. We all turned to him. He hung up slowly, looking horrified. They found the storage unit, burned to the ground. The words echoed in the room like thunder. Everything went quiet except for the faint sound of the rain outside. Whoever wanted to bury Mom's secret wasn't stopping. And now, it wasn't just about what she left behind, it was about what we might lose next. The room fell silent again, heavier than before. Mr. Thompson leaned forward. Mr. Ross, if this is true, that chest could hold legal proof of Peter's crimes. Without it, the family assets could be in danger. Daniel's eyes softened as he looked at me. Your mother trusted you, Naomi. She said one day, you'd know what to do if things ever reached this point. Before I could respond, Marcus's phone rang. He answered, and his face. The silence after Marcus's words was unbearable. My heart thudded painfully as we all processed what he'd just said. The storage unit, the last link to Mom's secret, was gone. Burnt. I felt an ache deep in my chest, a mix of grief, anger, and fear. It was like losing her all over again, only this time, someone had destroyed her truth. Daniel stood up slowly, his jaw tight. If the unit was burned, that means Peter, or whoever he's working with, knows we're getting close. He's trying to erase the past before it catches up to him. Marcus slammed his hand against the wall. Then we go to him. We don't sit here and do nothing while he wipes out everything Mom built. Tasha shook her head. We don't even know where he is, Marcus. He disappeared years ago after Mom stopped talking to him. Daniel looked uneasy. I might know where to find him. Everyone turned toward him. He hesitated for a moment, then said, Your mother told me that if something ever happened to her or to that chest, I should go to her brother's lake house. She believed he kept backups. Records, letters, maybe even the originals. I felt a flicker of hope. Then that's where we start. We drove out that afternoon, the sky heavy with clouds, the air thick with tension. The lake house was about an hour away, secluded, surrounded by trees, the kind of place where no one would notice if secrets stayed hidden. The closer we got, the quieter everyone became. Even Marcus didn't say a word. When we reached the property, the gate was slightly open, the padlock broken. A cold feeling crept through me. The gravel crunched under our shoes as we walked toward the house. The air smelled faintly of smoke, though not from fire, more like something recently burned in a fireplace. Daniel was the first to step inside. "Be careful," he warned softly. The place was dusty and dim, the curtains drawn. Papers were scattered across the floor, and the faint hum of a generator came from somewhere in the back. We moved carefully through the rooms, the wooden floors creaking beneath us. In what looked like an office, I noticed a metal cabinet pushed halfway open. Inside were folders marked with names, dates, and numbers. Tasha started sorting through them. "These look like property records," she whispered. "Some of them are in Mom's name." Renee picked up another file. "And these are bank transfers. Look, it's from Peter's account to hers. Huge amounts." Marcus exhaled sharply. "So it's true. He stole from her, and used her name to hide it." Daniel nodded grimly. "This is what she wanted you to find." Just then there was a loud creak behind us. We all turned at once. A shadow moved at the end of the hallway. My stomach dropped. "Who's there?" Marcus called out. No answer. He started walking forward, his shoulders tense. "Come out." A voice responded, low, rough, and familiar. "You shouldn't have come here." Uncle Peter stepped into the light, older now, his face lined but still sharp. His eyes moved slowly over all of us before stopping on Daniel. "I see you finally told them," he said with a bitter smile. "Angela would have been disappointed." Daniel's tone was steady. "She was disappointed in you, Peter? You betrayed her." Peter's jaw tightened. "She left me no choice. Everything we built together, she tried to take it from me. She never told you she wasn't innocent in all this, did she?" I stepped forward, my voice shaking. "You stole from her. You threatened her. She was scared of you." He looked at me then, his eyes cold. "And what do you think she was scared of, Naomi? The truth? Your mother wasn't just a victim. She was protecting something far bigger than money." My head spun. "What are you talking about?" He glanced at the files in Tasha's hands. "That trust fund she set up for you, it wasn't just family money. It was tied to my company. Her help, from Daniel? That was her way of covering what she owed me." Daniel shook his head. "That's a lie. She paid every cent back." Peter smiled faintly. "Oh, she tried. But she knew too much about where the money really came from. And when she found out I'd laundered it through her accounts, she said she'd expose me." I could feel the tension thickening. Marcus clenched his fists. "So you burned the unit?" Peter didn't deny it. "I couldn't let her ruin everything. Even after she was gone, I knew one of you would go digging." Daniel stepped closer. "You're done hiding, Peter. The truth's right here." Peter's eyes darted to the papers we'd gathered. Then, to my horror, he reached into his coat and pulled out a small flash drive, holding it between two fingers. "This is the only proof that matters. Without it, no one can touch me." Marcus lunged forward, but Peter backed up toward the fireplace. The drive slipped from his hand, landing on the floor. For a second, everything froze. Then Tasha grabbed it before he could. "Run!" Daniel shouted. We dashed out of the room, Peter shouting behind us. I could hear the sound of him stumbling, maybe tripping over the scattered papers. The rain outside had turned into a storm by the time we reached the car. My hands were shaking as I started the engine. We drove until we were sure no one was following. The air inside the car was thick with silence. Marcus finally spoke. "What's on that drive?" Daniel took it carefully from Tasha. "We'll find out soon." Back at Mr. Thompson's office, he connected it to his computer. A folder appeared labeled Angela_Harris_final. Inside were scans of documents, letters, and one video file. He clicked play. Mom appeared on the screen. Her voice was soft but firm, her smile faint. "If you're watching this, it means the truth has come out," she said. "I kept this secret to protect you, not from your uncle but from what his company was involved in. Years ago, I discovered he was using family funds to cover illegal deals. I couldn't report it without risking your safety, so I gathered the evidence and trusted Daniel to help me hide it. If Peter tries to erase my name, this will clear it." She paused, her eyes glistening. "And Naomi, I knew you'd be the one to find it. You've always had the strength I never did." I covered my mouth, tears stinging my eyes. The room was silent when the video ended. Marcus looked at me, his anger gone. "She trusted you for a reason," he said softly. Renee nodded. "She wanted us to finally know the truth." Mr. Thompson leaned back, exhaling. "With this, Peter won't be able to hide anymore. I'll send everything to the authorities." For the first time in weeks, I felt the weight start to lift. The lies, the pain, the betrayal, it all made sense now. Mom hadn't left me the inheritance because she loved me more. She'd done it because she knew I'd protect it until the truth was safe. But just as relief began to settle, Daniel frowned at the screen. "Wait, there's one more file." He clicked it open. It was another letter from Mom, dated a week before she passed. "If something happens to me before you find this, know that not all of Peter's secrets end with me. There's another name on those accounts, someone you all trust. Look deeper." I looked at Daniel, who was staring at the screen, his face pale. "What does she mean?" I asked quietly. He swallowed hard, his voice almost breaking. "Naomi, she's talking about me." The room went silent again. He continued, "I thought I was helping her, but she discovered that some of the money I used to cover her debts came from Peter's offshore accounts. She asked me to come clean, and I didn't. I was scared. I couldn't believe what I was hearing." "So you were part of it?" He nodded slowly. "Not willingly. But I was. And I knew this day would come." Tasha whispered, "Then why help us?" "Because," he said softly, "I owed her that much. And now I'll make it right." He stood up and walked toward the door. "You have the evidence you need. Use it." Before we could stop him, he was gone. I stared at the empty doorway, feeling both betrayed and oddly at peace. The truth had finally come out, but it hadn't come without cost. When the police arrested Uncle Peter the next morning, the news spread fast. But Daniel Ross had vanished completely. The trust was cleared, our family's name restored, yet a part of the mystery still lingered. Sometimes I still wonder if Mom knew how deep it all went, or if she just trusted time to reveal the truth. Either way, she was right. The truth didn't just set us free, it changed everything. The weeks after Uncle Peter's arrest felt strange, quiet but heavy, like the silence that comes after a storm. The chaos was over, yet the echo of everything that happened still lingered in every thought, every memory. Our family had been torn apart, exposed, and somehow brought back together by the truth Mom had spent years protecting. I finally understood why she did what she did, why she stayed silent even when it hurt. She wasn't trying to hide shame, she was trying to shield us from danger. The police investigation wrapped up quickly once Mr. Thompson handed over Mom's files and the flash drive. The evidence was impossible to ignore: bank records, fake property transfers, and signed documents linking Uncle Peter's company to illegal dealings. He was charged with multiple counts of fraud and money laundering. When the news broke, people in town couldn't believe it. To everyone else, Peter Harris had always been the successful, charming businessman who donated to local schools and helped fund community centers. But behind that polished smile was someone who'd nearly destroyed his own sister's legacy. Marcus, Tasha, and Renee each reacted differently to the aftermath. Marcus was quiet for days after Peter's arrest. He stopped blaming me, stopped arguing about the inheritance, and started showing up again, for family dinners, for late-night calls, even for small things like helping fix Mom's garden gate. It was his way of making peace, I think. He admitted one evening, while we sat on the porch, that he'd been angry for all the wrong reasons. "I thought you were her favorite," he said softly. "But you were just the one carrying what she couldn't." Tasha went back through Mom's old journals, organizing them neatly in boxes labeled by year. She said it helped her feel close to her again. Sometimes she'd call me just to read a line that made her laugh or cry. Renee took on the role of planner, helping Mr. Thompson settle the remaining estate issues. For the first time in a long time, we worked together instead of against each other. But Daniel Ross remained a mystery. The police never found him. They said he'd probably left the country before they could question him, and honestly, I wasn't surprised. I think part of him couldn't face what he'd done, or maybe he just didn't want to explain himself. Even so, I couldn't bring myself to hate him. Without him, Mom wouldn't have been able to protect us. Without his help, even if it was imperfect, the truth might have stayed buried forever. A month later, I received a letter in the mail with no return address. Inside was a simple note written in familiar handwriting. "Your mother believed in forgiveness. Don't let her lesson die with her. D." There was no signature, but I knew it was from Daniel. For a long time, I sat there holding that letter, not sure whether to be angry or grateful. In the end, I chose peace. Mr. Thompson helped me set up a charity in Mom's name using part of the inheritance. We called it the Angela Harris Foundation, dedicated to helping single mothers and families facing financial struggles. It felt right, like completing something she'd started but never finished. When we opened the first community office, I stood in front of the crowd with my siblings beside me, feeling a quiet strength in my chest. The pain, the betrayal, the confusion, all of it had led here. During the opening speech, I talked about Mom, about her courage and the truth she carried in silence. I didn't mention the crimes or the secrets. I just said she taught us the value of doing what's right, even when no one understands why. People clapped and I saw tears in a few eyes. That moment, I knew she'd finally been given the honor she deserved. Life slowly found its rhythm again. The house that once felt like a place of grief began to feel like home. I planted new flowers in the garden, ones Mom used to love, sunflowers, daisies, and lavender. The air smelled softer, calmer. Every morning when I watered them, I'd whisper a small thank you as if she could still hear me somehow. One day Marcus found an old photo tucked inside one of Mom's books. It was of her, young and smiling, standing with all four of us when we were kids. On the back she'd written in blue ink, "Family isn't perfect, but it's everything." We framed that photo and hung it in the living room. It became a reminder of how much she'd endured for us and how much we owed her in return. Not money, not apologies, but unity. Even the community began to see our family differently. People no longer whispered about the inheritance or the will. They talked about Mom's kindness, her work, her strength. Sometimes older neighbors would stop by to tell stories about how she helped them pay rent or looked after their kids when times were hard. It was those moments that made me realize she had been quietly changing lives all along. The hardest part was learning to forgive myself. I carried guilt for a while, guilt for not seeing what she was going through, for thinking I'd disappointed her when in truth she was proud of me all along. One evening as the sun was setting, I sat by her favorite chair with her old photo album. I found a note she'd left behind that I hadn't noticed before, tucked between the pages. It read, "If you're reading this, it means I'm at peace. Don't live in anger, my love. You've always been my greatest strength. When people hurt you, let it teach you compassion. When life tests you, let it show you your own power." I cried quietly that night, not out of sadness but out of gratitude. Her words were like a final embrace, a promise that even though she was gone, she'd never really left us. Months later, when Uncle Peter's trial began, I didn't go to court. Marcus and Tasha did, but I stayed home. I didn't need to see him face justice. I already knew he'd lost everything that mattered. Sometimes revenge isn't about punishment, it's about reclaiming peace. And that's what I chose. By the time the year ended, things had changed in ways I couldn't have imagined. The tension between us as siblings was gone, replaced by something stronger, understanding. We still argued, we still got on each other's nerves, but now there was love behind it. Real love. Renee decided to move back into the old family house with me. "It feels right," she said one morning as we drank coffee by the window. "Like Mom would have wanted us here." I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "She would have." Sometimes, late at night, I still hear her voice in my mind, gentle, steady, the same tone she used when I was a child. "You'll know what to do, Naomi." And now, for the first time, I believe her. I've learned that family isn't about blood or inheritance. It's about the choices we make when everything falls apart. It's about standing up when you could run, forgiving when you could hate, and finding light even in the darkest moments. Mom's story, our story, became one of redemption and truth. The disappointment label my siblings once threw at me during her funeral didn't sting anymore. It had lost its power. Because in the end, Mom knew who I was, and so did I. As I placed fresh flowers on her grave one morning, the breeze felt warm, carrying the soft scent of lavender. I smiled, whispering, "You were right, Mom. The truth really does set you free." And standing there under the golden light of a new day, I felt peace. Not the kind that comes from forgetting, but the kind that comes from finally understanding. That was her final gift to us. The truth, the healing, and the reminder that even after the hardest endings, love always finds its way back home.